So tell us about your role here in all of this.
Well, we represent the interveners in the case, primarily the Joyce family from Acton, Massachusetts, that are in the Acton-Boxborough Regional School District and want to keep saying the pledge as is. And I just started on behalf of the interveners in front of the SJC.
And what's their argument essentially in all of this?
Our argument is that the pledge should not be struck down. It's not a classification of people into different people groups. It's a statement about our political philosophy in this country. And it's unfortunate that it's being attacked based on the idea that it's really an establishment of religion claim, but it's being dressed up as an equal protection claim in this case, and we disagree with that.
I understand that kids don't have to say that they don't want to.
Right.
They've said they feel ostracized by that. I mean, what's the argument there?
Well, there's, I think it's unfortunate they feel ostracized. I don't think it's based on any evidence that anyone's been bullied or attacked for not saying the pledge. And in fact, Jehovah's Witnesses, for example, have not been able to don't say the pledge because of their own convictions, and they haven't said it's, and they've been, they haven't been forced to say it since 1943, when the United States Supreme Court said that everyone gets the right to opt out. But the right to not say it doesn't mean the right to silence other people who do want to say it. You Jessica's dad?
Nope, I'm her uncle.
Uncle, okay.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. What do you say to that, by the way? Because he had actually been on the receiving end of bullying based on the Pledge of Allegiance, where I was actually present when the entire crowd of people would scream "Under God" as loud as possible at people who had a different point of view and used it in a weaponized kind of way. I mean, the pledge became a way of actually telling people we're more American than you are. How do you say that it's not a religious exercise?
Well, I think that case had to do with the mural.
Right. Well, yes.
And so I don't think that.
But they were using the pledge to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But the argument here is that under God is actually causing a problem by itself, as opposed to the case was about the mural.
Well, the case was about the mural, but I'm talking about and during the case, people would use the pledge as a way of bullying people. In fact, I was one of 6 people in the early parts of that who would be there against 120 other people who would say the pledge and then scream "Under God" at us as loud as possible, intentionally to ostracize us. And I wonder how, if the pledge can be used that way, doesn't that show that there is a divisive nature to the pledge?
I don't think so, because I think lots of language can be used in divisive ways, and if we start censoring how government can speak or how anybody can speak based on whether somebody's offended by it or whether it's divisive, we're just going to not have public debate in this country.
Aren't you conflating two things? You're conflating government speech and individual speech, and while people have the absolute constitutional right to say the pledge any way they want, this is the government actually saying or prescribing.
Well, he was just talking about private speech, correct?
No, he wasn't.
No, this was the Pledge of Allegiance being said at a actual opening of a school function. This is what it was. It was the school committee was opening the stuff with a Pledge of Allegiance.
But the ostracism element was something that individuals.
The people were all. Well, that's what I'm saying. But if the term wasn't there, would they have been able to do that? I mean, if it had been the original pre-1954 version, that would not have been a possibility to scream "Under God." I mean, they would have used other things, which they did. They used songs and such. But I mean, the pledge was actually for everybody, but it wasn't for the people there on our side, is what I'm trying. What's the point we're trying to make?
I actually disagree with that strongly. I think the pledge is for atheists too.
It was until they forced those wording into it.
I think the pledge now is too, because the phrasing "under God" talks about the limitation of the government's powers, and that's something that atheists enjoy too.
I don't know
how is it limited government if the government is prescribing the Pledge of Allegiance? How's that limited government?
It's not. Sorry, say that again.
How is it limited government when the government is the one saying this is the Pledge of Allegiance?
Because it's talking about. I mean, I direct you to our briefing, but basically, the pledge is a statement of political philosophy, and the word "under God" has always been used to limit.
That so-called political philosophy is actually just a theological doctrine. I mean, it's very important to make this distinction that humanists do not believe that our rights derive from a deity, a supernatural entity who intervenes in human affairs. Humanists believe that the human condition is our own problem to work out. So inserting this under God, a purely theological notion, into something which is supposed to reflect love of country, is just totally inappropriate. And besides that, it's very bad geography. If you actually look at a map, the United States is under Canada.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Do you mind if we ask you a question?
Sure, yeah,
That would be great. Thank you.
Because they're
Your argument before the justices,
Yes,
can you summarize it?
sure. The argument is just that the pledge doesn't violate equal protection under the Massachusetts Constitution because it doesn't create a classification. It doesn't sort people into different groups, and it doesn't result in consequences that come from that sorting. And that's what you have to have a classification. In this case, the plaintiffs have waived a fundamental rights argument. They never made it, and they specifically avoided it. In this case, they also avoided bringing an establishment clause claim. And so, really, it just comes down to whether there's a classification or not. And in my view, the Pledge of Allegiance does just about as much classifying people as a recipe for chicken soup.
And can you say that in a way that people get a little bit less legal
Sure,
jargon?
sure.
Practically speaking, they're arguing that if you can't really opt out because people will make you feel terrible if you opt out. Can you?
You can opt out. People have been opting out since 1943 when the United States Supreme Court required every government to allow people to opt out. And if there's evidence of bullying, that should be stopped. I don't think anyone should be bullied or ostracized because of that, and I don't think the school district wants that either. But that doesn't mean that you then throw out the pledge, sort of throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
So in your mind, both can coexist in one classroom.
Right. People have the right to remain silent when the pledge is being said, but that doesn't mean they get to silence everyone else.